I'm happy to introduce Rosh. How are you doing, Rosh?
Good to be here.
Excellent. I'm glad to have you here as well. Now, if it's okay with you, I'm going to introduce your story and the one you've picked this week. The Democrats will suffer if they abandon the Green New Deal. And then we can get some of your thoughts and opinions on why you think this piece is relevant and important, and what it says is interesting, and the US elections more generally. Then we'll bring everyone else in. So the Democrats will suffer if they abandon the Green New Deal. Did Joe Biden's much publicized suggestion that he wanted to transition off fossil fuels during a presidential debate cost him the election? Evidently not. Biden is projected to flip Pennsylvania with a healthy margin, and he carried fossil fuel producing states New Mexico and Colorado. Democrats did underperform further down the ballot, though, losing House seats where they were expected to gain them and floundering in their bid to take control of the Senate, which will remain Republican dominated unless they can pull off an unlikely victory in a pair of special elections in Georgia in January. Some elder statesmen have already reached their conclusions. They blame the party's lackluster performance on policies like defunding the police, the Green New Deal, and Medicare for All, offering scant evidence that these progressive battle cries actually led to a significant electoral backlash. They've stuck by them regardless. Meanwhile, establishment types, including the Lincoln Project's cast of grifters, and we'll have to get into the Lincoln Project, have been eager to take credit for Biden's victory and historic vote share, now shaping up to be the largest since Ronald Reagan's re-election in 1984. In essence, everything good that happened for Democrats in this election, in other words, was the result of Democratic Party business as usual. Everything bad was the left's fault. Rosh, let's talk through this, because isn't this the correct lesson that we should be drawing from this? We've seen here in the UK that left-wing ideas are actually unpopular in the electorate, aren't they? Like Corbyn got absolutely smashed just last December. And maybe, this is the lesson that we should be taking from the US election, which is that Americans hate socialists and they view this kind of deal, the Green New Deal, as socialist and therefore not good. I mean, Trump almost won, didn't he?
So Trump actually lost by, I think, the biggest margin in US electoral history, about 5 million votes between Biden and Trump. And this US election seems to be a repudiation of Trump himself, if not the Republican Party. But in terms of left-wing ideas being unpopular, in the UK at least, there's been some good work on this by organizations like We Own It. Economically, left ideas are broadly popular, even with conservative voters. So ideas around nationalizing key industries like transport, utilities, most people want those to be in public hands. Ideas around increasing the highest top tax rate on high earners, that's also got a lot of public support. So the polling shows that most people are moderate social democrats. And if you can propose a program that will fundamentally change the material conditions for people, make their lives materially better, put some money in their wallets, give them better paying conditions, people are crying out for that because the economy doesn't work for most people. And what the American election has shown us is that in some good data has come out from Justice Democrats, who are an organization who helped get AOC elected and other members of the squad. They've shown that in swing seats, in that Democrats that ran on Medicare for All and the Green New Deal actually won their swing seat elections. And the more established Democrats who didn't talk about those policies didn't win. So what publics in America, in the UK, and in other Western economies are really calling out for is like they want substantial economic change. Like they're looking at the economy and they're saying it's rigged. It doesn't work for most people. So people want substance. They don't want talking points. Biden in this election didn't have much of an economic program. He was running on civility, morality, trying to show that he would be a safer pair of hands compared to Donald Trump. But there wasn't much in economic substance. And you're right. In America in particular, there's a very virulent form of anti-communism, which is kind of a hangover from the Cold War era and the McCarthyism. Um, but the thing is that the right in America use this kind of rhetoric for anyone who has a mildly redistributive program. So they called Obama a communist, and he was far and away anything like a communist. His economic program was fairly neoliberal. He supported massive bank bailouts. So so I think blaming the left is a very bad move because the left have all the ideas, right? The right have nothing to say on economic issues apart from more deregulation, more privatization, more jobs for their buddies. Um, but actually, the ideas that take on the crises that we're facing, the climate crisis, rampant inequality, the left has ideas on these. The right just turns to using cultural grievances, cultural resentment to push against those economic ideas. And unfortunately, they can be really salient. That's why we're seeing social issues become such a polarizing thing here and in the US.
Well, talking about those kinds of views and talking about the polarization here, are things even that bad? Like, I mean, is inequality that bad? Isn't like what's happening to the climate kind of over-reported? Isn't this really, isn't this something that's been sort of concocted by academics and university students and experts who really aren't to be trusted? And when you answer that, can you also tell us what the Green New Deal is? Because it sounds kind of vague.
Okay. Yeah. So things are that bad. I mean, just in the UK, people are in work poverty. Like most benefit claimants work. Work doesn't work for most people. It's one household income isn't enough to support a family anymore, and we're seeing wage stagnation and massive remuneration for people in the top of organizations. You're seeing this massive increase in income differentials between the people at the top of an organization and the working people in the organization. So yes, things are that bad, and that's repeated all across the Western world. In terms of climate, the science is unequivocal. The science says we've got 10 years to reach net zero if we're going to stand any chance of not reaching 2 degrees more warming, which will set off a whole load of catastrophic feedbacks. So the debate about whether or not it's happening, that's we don't need to be having that debate anymore. The debate should be how are we going to decarbonize? What our priority is going to be, and that's what the Green New Deal is about. The Green New Deal says it recognizes the urgency of the situation and the radicalism that it demands, and the only way that we're going to reach net zero in time is if we transform our economy. And the only way we're going to transform our economy is if we bring a broad coalition of people on board with that transformation. But, the economy doesn't work for most people. We need to restore the esteem of people who, in this pandemic, were called low skilled, but actually turn out to be incredibly essential. We need to invest in massive renewable rollout and focus on teaching and caring, like jobs that have massive social value. So what the Green New Deal says is that if we transform our economy, we can deal with the climate and we can have a better standard of well-being. We can have a stronger society built on actual social solidarity instead of the competition that we have at the moment. So it's a radical policy that faces up to the problems that we have.